Hey there, introverts and deep thinkers. Welcome to Introverts Unmuted, the podcast where we prove that quiet doesn't mean invisible and deep thoughts deserve a mic. If you've ever felt drained by small talk, mastered the art of sneaking out of the room, or wish the world understood the magic of solitude, this is your space. We're diving into everything from navigating social energy to embracing creativity, confidence, and the unique power of being an introvert. So get comfy, plug in, and let's turn up the volume on our quiet confidence. I'm Amber Hansel, and this is Introverts Unmuted. Today, I have with me Jacki. She helps support creative service providers by helping them simplify and sustain the systems behind their business. So welcome. How are you?
Thanks, Amber, for having me on. I am doing great. Happy to be here.
Yes. So I totally feel that systems are a crucial part of being an introvert and functioning in this world. So what got you it going, yes, systems do work?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of introverts who are just naturally process thinkers and system thinkers anyways. So it didn't matter what I was doing career-wise or in my life, I had a process always in my head. When I began working in the online world, it was as a virtual assistant, and I quickly learned that a lot of the folks I was working with didn't have systems. They were visionaries, they were creatives, they were just kind of doing whatever they wanted to do in the moment. So my role was to help them come up with strategic systems so that I could get my job done easier. And I learned in doing that it really helped support me as an introvert because it helped me establish boundaries around my capacity to, as I say, people throughout the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really going what system is going to work and where do I need to implement certain things. So what are key ones that you see that are the most common when we're doing this?
So when it comes to creating systems, I think one of the biggest ones that introverts can create is how do people book time with you? You don't have to be available all the time. Even if you are a service provider on the online space, you can decide when it is best for people to speak with you, when you can have the most capacity to talk with them. And you can use a scheduling tool to do that. The first thing is to ask yourself, how much can I give in a day to other people and how much do I need for myself? And then set up, the scheduling tool with those parameters and then stick to it. That's, I think, the biggest thing is to make sure that you just stick to whatever you put in your availability in your scheduling tool for at least, 90 days and then reassess and ask yourself, okay, can I give more time, or is this season of my life right now? The holiday seasons may be a time where you're like, I can't be available for anybody except for the bare minimum. Other times you may be have a lot more capacity, so you can provide more time to others. But that is a system that I think introverts really need to make sure that they implement right from the start when it comes to running their business, but also in your personal life. Obviously, you're not going to hand a scheduler off to your mother to have lunch, but understanding that you need to look at your day in advance and say, how many times do I have to talk to other people today? Do I have the capacity to do something else? Whether that's the PTO meeting or, lunch with your mom or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and I agree. And also when you're scheduling the types of calls, what types of things are you doing? Are you doing a 15-minute coffee chat? Are you doing a 2-hour strategy session? How many of those per day do you do? Or are you podcast guesting and you're getting on all of these things or network calls? How many per day, and what does the whole week look like together? I do 1, maybe 2 podcasts a day, and I only have certain days because I have other things going on the rest of the week, and making, hey, maybe just Mondays I do this type of call. And then that's done until the next week.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I have a part-time job during Mondays and Wednesdays during the day. So obviously I'm not available to my clients there. And Fridays are kind of my prepare for the weekend, but also just focus on me, whatever that needs to be. So I keep Tuesdays and Thursdays for calls, but I also look, okay, I already have 2 networking calls booked on Thursday. I'm not going to have the capacity to show up very well for a client or for a strategy session or for a podcast interview. So knowing, like you said, not only the types, but the number of people that you're going to be talking to in the day can also really impact you. If I'm talking to one person for 3 hours, I might just be completely drained, or if, depending on who I am, be okay to talk to 3 or 4 more people if they're short engagements. So it really is knowing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really digging in and going, what is my energy level and where are my peak energy levels? Maybe you don't take calls in the afternoons. Maybe you only take calls in the mornings. And really just understanding that, hey, this is what I do. I don't often take calls in the evenings, but I understand sometimes I do because there's time differences and I want to get on and I understand that that's what's going to happen, but it's not something that's on my schedule. It is an off schedule thing of you need to talk to me.
Yeah. I had a corporate job where I was on a team of 2, so me and somebody else. So we knew each other fairly well. And he always joked with everybody when they would start to come over to find me first thing in the morning. He'd be like, she hasn't gone. We had a cafeteria and I would always go grab breakfast with one of my close friends. He's like, you can't talk to her until she's come back from breakfast. Just don't even. She's not ready to people. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like in the morning, I am very like, let me just write everything, do my creative work with my coffee in the mornings and see if my kids will not talk to me for 10 minutes and get that going and then I can people later on. Or I find certain platforms I want to hang out on at certain times of the day. I like to scroll threads at night and really get deep into it. And I think, really that's a system. And we forget that these things are systems.
Yeah, a lot of people, when I talk systems, immediately start thinking a specific tool like ClickUp or something along those lines. And I like to use the analogy of baking a cake. When you bake a cake, you have the ingredients, you have the appliances that you use, you have the space that you're using, the time you have available, the time it takes to cook. All of those things come together. That is the system. And so brushing your teeth is now a system. Baking a cake is a system. Grocery shopping, you have a system. If there's something that you do on a repeat, you've built some kind of system. Sometimes those systems work better for us than others. And that's where sometimes you need to step back. If something feels really hard, you're probably doing it in a way that somebody told you should do it, as opposed to the way that actually works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think within our business, we have lots of different systems. And it's like you said, it is everything that we do. And so like client management and the workflows and the delivery around all of this is a system. So how can we maybe simplify our system? Because many times we overload our system with things that are not necessary because we thought that that's what we needed because, she has that or he has that, and that's going to work for us.
Yeah, I think it really starts with sitting down and either drawing out or writing out, or speaking into a voice memo, whatever works best for you, and working through that process from start to finish. And thinking about the goal of that process. What are you actually trying to accomplish? And as you're mapping that out in whatever way works for you, you'll start to see redundancies. Or you'll go, I am spending $300 on this tool and I'm only using like 3 things out of it. So wait a minute, I already have a tool that actually does those 3 things. So you start to actually see where the challenges are for you, where things are working, where there may be gaps. It's one of the things I love to do with my clients the most is just help them through that, because sometimes you don't always know because you're so immersed in it. So sometimes it's helpful to talk to somebody like me, or even, a friend. Help me walk through this. What might be missing? And where am I overdoing this? And when your system starts to look like this giant thing that's across 4 pages of things, you need to probably simplify. If you can't fit it on a page, there's something that you probably can cut out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that goes into SOPs. How do you feel about SOPs? I know there's lots of talk about SOPs, and the general consensus is you need to have them.
Okay, well, first off, yes, I will tell you, if you're going to have a team, you should have them. You should probably even have them if you're a solopreneur. Cobbler and shoe, I don't have any for my business. The way I honestly do SOPs for myself is in my ClickUp. It's the steps that I put in my ClickUp. And they're pretty descriptive. Like, I'll have a link to the Google Drive folder that I need to use. When I make SOPs for clients, I used to be very, very thorough, and I do all the screenshots and all the things, but tech changes so quickly that 3 months from now, the screenshot that you have given them is no longer relevant. So I like to have folks just do a Loom video or something along those that type of thing, and talk through the process they're doing. And then we just create an outline, and we will link it to anything that's important. Google Drive folders or other SOPs, so it's easy for them to find the other steps maybe. But I think the easiest is the best. But the one thing to keep in mind is you're probably going to hand the SOP off to others, and everybody learns differently. So the video is great. The written instructions are great. So keep in mind that some people are going to learn better by watching you do it, and others are going to learn better by following the steps that are written on a page.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really important just to, even for yourself, because, I'm a solopreneur and I'm like, yeah, I need to do that SOP. And then I realized that I already have one in place. We do it. If you do that task so many times, you can record yourself doing that task, and then it's done. We overcomplicate, and then our brain goes, well, we need to do this big thing. Well, it's not a big thing. And I think as systems, we make it a big thing. That it needs to be this giant thing that our business runs automatically, and that it's all of this thing, but that's not what it is.
No, systems doesn't equal automation. Automations may exist in your system, but they don't have to. I don't work with lots of clients in a particular month. I don't run a group program. So if I'm only onboarding 2 or 3 clients, I don't need this giant automation through the onboarding process. I can do most of that manually, and that's perfectly okay. Now, I may pre-write some emails where I just do plug and play to make that simpler for myself. But you're still you can automate and keep it personal, but you also don't have to have automations in your business. When you write that SOP, that's also a great time to realize when you've overdone something or you've made something more complicated than it needs to be, because you'll see it as you're going through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, we come from there's this societal pressure, almost this online, of like, make sure it's automated. You got to have the system in place and all this. And I actually, when I stripped down and said, I don't want to do any of that, and I'm just going to, Google folder it and form it and send out the emails, it made it simpler for me, because I'm like, yeah, now I know what to do.
There's a big pressure in the online business space to scale so that you can step out of your business and somebody else can run it while you sit on the beach. It's kind of what's being pushed out there. That is not who I am, and that is not who the people I work with are and who are in my sphere of online business owners. We like engaging with our clients. We want to be the people who are providing the service. Yes, we may want to take a month off. That's fine. But we're not trying to scale to the point where we no longer have to participate in the business. So you don't have to automate all of these things or make it so that a team of 20 can do it without you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can still do it in the way that you want to do it, with the energy that you have, and think that, it doesn't need to be this automatic process because, they have to have their answer within 12 hours or 2 minutes. No, that's not, my podcast, I send out a link to the form, and then I send an email. It's not automated at all. That is all me. And then I send it, and then I set up the Google folder, and I do all the things. None of it's automated and it works for me. I have a process and it's automatic to me now to do it. I have a template for the emails that I send out, so I just, can easily do that. But when we really sit back and go, I want to be a part of it and I want to talk to each single person, it makes a difference. And I think so many of us, even as introverts, because that's what we love to do, is we want to connect with our people. And so that's why sometimes that overwhelm of systems, we're scared because then we feel like we're going to lose some part that feels important to us.
Yeah. And I will say, as the person on the other side, as your podcast guest, your process was very helpful to me as a guest. And I think when we're building our systems, if it is going to engage with somebody else, we have to step back and ask ourselves, are we making it easy for them? Are we making them feel seen? Are we making them feel welcomed if they're a client or a podcast guest? And sometimes you can do that with automation. Sometimes you actually can automate something and it becomes more personal, such as accessibility options. If somebody wants to book something and doesn't want to have to talk to you on Zoom, you can provide an automation for them to go to something like Video Ask or something along those lines. But you get to pick and choose what you automate. You get to pick and choose what the steps are in your system. You get to pick and choose what works best for you. And I always tell my clients, do not set up your system for, this is my ideal day. Do not set up your system for, even 90% of my ideal day. Set up your system for like 40% of your ideal day, because you're never going to get your ideal day.
Yeah, exactly. The systems are there to help you when you are laying in bed, cuddling your sick kids, running here and there. You've got this happening. The world, it feels like it's imploding around you. Your systems are supposed to carry you through.
Yeah, systems are there to make life easier. If they're not, you need to step back and look at them, evaluate them, because as you said, you've probably overcomplicated them. But yeah, they're there to help you, not to cause you stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we, as introverts, I know systems can feel like we struggle with, finding our voice and our confidence in using systems. So how can we, as introverts, really come out stronger with using systems in our business?
I think, like you said, we're introverts. We like to go deep on things, and we like to go deep with other people. So that means going deep on yourself and knowing how you like to work, knowing how you like to function, knowing how you like to make decisions. Create a system for how you make decisions so you don't get overwhelmed. If there's a decision that you have to make on a regular basis, create an if-then statement. And so you don't have to worry about thinking through that later, so that you have the capacity to go deeper in other areas. And that's what I like to think of it is, when I have created systems, it gives me the space to do things like this: be on podcasts, host and interview people on my own podcast, have one-on-one coffee chats with folks. Those are the things that I love to do, is getting to know people and going deep with them. And those systems back there, they just make that possible. So if you can think about what it is that you love to do and remember that your systems are there to help you do that, I think the confidence will start to get there.
Yes, absolutely. And we have to remember that confidence comes from taking action and trying it and then going, no, that didn't quite work for me. I think we've all experimented with different systems, and you see people all the time switching between this and that and doing, because they're finding what needs to work for them. And really remembering too, you have different seasons that are happening, whether it's holiday season, New Year's season, summer, whatever it's going to be. So sometimes your systems might need to be a little bit more amped up for the season you're in, and other times you're going to be in it more.
Yeah, I think if you can step back and not take it personally, how trying something resulted, and using it as data as opposed to seeing it, say, as a failure, and just look at business and life in general as a big experiment, it really helps. And you're not beating yourself up because my coach said this piece of software would be great, and if I did it X, Y, or Z, it'd be perfect, and it didn't work for me, there must be something wrong with me. No, that's not the case. Go back, figure out what did work for you, what didn't work for you, and keep tweaking and reiterating until you find something that does. And none of that is personal. None of that is a personal failing. It's all an experiment.
Yeah, it is just one giant experiment. And I think the more that we can let go of the expectation that this is absolutely what I need and go, I'm going to try this. If it works for me, great. If it didn't, I'm going to see why, and really digging in and being that self-reflective introvert that we are, and going with our logical brains and saying, hey, this is great. This isn't. What's next?
I think one thing, though, that folks like myself, who do love systems or processes or experiments in general, time cap it in some way, or put some kind of cap on it. Because I can get lost in trying a new system, testing it out for myself, and hours have gone by, and I'm like, oh, I could have been talking to 3 potential clients right now. Maybe that wasn't the best use of my time. So giving yourself some parameters around that experiment is how experiments work anyways. So keep that in mind if you're somebody like me who gets into deep focus with anything that catches your attention.
Yeah, and I think that goes for a lot of things, you know, whether we're scrolling or tweaking that website or fixing that blog post or that Canva graphic that needs to be just right. We have to remember that systems need to flow. And if you get stuck in it and you're too far in it, then it's not working for you. So, you know, setting that time limit and sticking to it and going, this is what I'm going to do next. You know, I think that always helps too, is what are you doing after that? And having that plan in place, whether that's, oh, hey, I get to go read my book after this, or whatever it's going to be to reward yourself for stopping, or whatever it needs to be.
I actually created a system for myself because I'm one of those people. For those who are into human design, I'm a mani-gen. I have lots of ideas. I pivot all the time, and it gets really distracting through the week. And I will find myself doing that idea that just came to my brain instead of the things that I wanted to do that day. And so now I put them in an idea bank in my ClickUp. And on Fridays, it is my day to look at that idea bank, pick whatever ones I want to work on, play around with them, and at the end of the day say, hey, is that something I want to continue working on? And if so, it can move into my schedule of things to work on and develop. Or, oh, that didn't work out like I thought. Okay, I can get rid of it. But now I know throughout the week that I don't have to stop and work on it. I'm not going to lose it. It'll be there, and I get to give it all the attention I want on Friday. So I can get back to what I needed to do on Wednesday, which may be editing a podcast episode that really needed to be edited that day. So,
yeah. And I love that you have like a day. And I think that's so great to focus on something like that, so that it's not blocking you throughout the week. And you know that you're going to get there and say, hey, guess what? My reward is that on Fridays, I am going to go do this. This needs and it's really prioritizing your week.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Jacki, where can we connect with you and get to know how you all run your systems?
Yeah. So if you're a podcast listener, you probably love other podcasts. So I have a podcast called Here's What I Learned. You can hop over there, or you can go to my webpage. There is a page on the menu that says Start Here, and it's all the ways to find me and connect with me and get to know me.
Awesome. I will have all of the links listed in the show notes, so you can go connect with Jacki and listen to her podcast and find her on her website. So thank you, Jacki, for coming on to chat today.
Thanks for having me today.